Hello everyone, I'm Melissa Duran. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Trending Vegas. We have a lot going on, but first I'm joined by the portion of the city's social media team, including Jennifer Davies and our very own Jace Radke, who is social distancing from Jen and I today. Thanks so much for being here, guys. All right, I like the attitude. All right, you guys have been busy, but I do want to start off by saying that the social media team here at the City of Las Vegas was just honored with an award. Jen, you want to talk about what that award is?
Yeah, so we won the Customer Service Award through the Government Social Media Organization and the Golden Post Awards. So we were nominated for our efforts on social media to respond to messages and get people help with their problems. And we take on a lot of messages. We've gotten like 90,000 since January. So our team is pretty busy helping people get them where they need to go in the city. And we're just so honored that our efforts were recognized.
Well, definitely much deserved. You should see how busy they are. The job never stops. It's a 24/7 thing. So thank you guys for all that you do. All right, guys, we're going to start with an update on COVID-19 in our area and the closures of bars. Now, the governor recently rolled back the opening of bars after the numbers started going up. And this pertains to bars that do not serve food and also some bar tops. Of course, this got some business owners very upset. Here's a look at social media. First, this one from Travelin' Man. Las Vegas area bars sue Nevada for shutting down businesses again amid COVID-19 spike. Here's more of the same coming up. 37 bars and taverns in Clark County have filed a lawsuit against the state of Nevada and Governor Sisolak over being forced to shut down again during the COVID-19 pandemic. They claim they were unfairly and unlawfully singled out. And then just more of the same. My aunt just moved to Nevada after 50 years in Cali. 2 weeks later, they mandated face masks and closed bars. There's nowhere to run but the voting stations in November. Then we have this one. What blows my mind is that bars were told to shut down in Nevada, yet when I go on A Million People stories from last night, I see people at the bars, not in the dining area, at the actual bar. So it goes on and on and on. This was confusing to me. I understand I'm not an expert in the field. I don't have the data right in front of me. Why bars and not casinos, XYZ? It's a little confusing. What are you guys seeing on social media, Jen?
I agree that there's a lot of confusion from people about what bars are being continued to allowed to operate. But from the distinction that I see, it's just those smaller bars where food is not served, and in the casino, I think because they are in such a larger space where maybe social distancing is more possible, that seems to be like it was part of the distinction that was made by the governor.
And Jace, what are you seeing on social?
I mean, on social, just a lot of people not understanding. I think a lot of people perceive an inconsistency here. Like you were saying, Melissa, what's the difference between a bar versus a big box store versus a restaurant versus a casino? People walk into a casino and say, oh, there's hundreds of people in here, and my neighborhood bar, there's like 15 people in there. So where's the science? What is it? And I just think, this is because it's not a one-size-fits-all pandemic, and it's hard for governments to respond to these kind of things, and I'm sure that they're doing the best that they can, but there definitely are some inconsistencies that we're seeing on social, people pointing out.
The City of Las Vegas came out with some numbers as well recently where about more than 1,400 businesses have been checked and the vast majority of them are in compliance. So I'm really confused as to where exactly this is happening. Are you guys getting any of these kinds of questions on social media?
Yeah, we are. I mean, I agree. Like all the stuff that I've seen on social has been videos of people showing some of the big crowds that are taking place. But just from what we've seen on social, the crowds at pools are far more than even what people were sharing with us about bars and restaurants. So I think that inconsistency, it's just leading to a lot of confusion. I know I saw a really helpful graphic on social media that kind of helped you identify where the riskier spots were. And I mean, bars were like a 9 out of 10 in terms of risk, versus, restaurants that were like a little bit lower down that list, the different things that you could be doing, the different activities, going out to a park was obviously like low risk. Right. So I assume that leaders and officials have more information than all of us do. I think with contract tracing, we think that maybe they are able to piece some of those things together in terms of where more infections are happening to help inform those decisions.
Yeah, when you start adding alcohol into the mix of decision making, well, we just know that that can get blurry sometimes, right, guys? So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I do want to mention that we are taping this during the week, and this rollback of the bars opening is set to end July 24th, correct? So that will be right before this airs. So things are subject to change. This is something we have gotten used to with the COVID pandemic. Things change day to day, hour by hour. So just keep that in mind if you were watching this after bars have reopened, or if they do.
At least we know they're going to review it, so that's positive.
Absolutely.
That they're going to keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, speaking of review, some big decisions are going to be made concerning the upcoming school year. Again, at the time of this taping, the CCSD Board of Trustees are set to meet tonight to discuss what the fall semester is going to look like. Here are some of the social media posts we're seeing. This is from the Clark County Education Association. Survey results are in. Should CCSD reopen under a distance learning model? Over 11,000 took the survey. The overwhelming majority, 74%, wants the distance learning model. We will be informing CCSD superintendent of these results. He has been kept appraised of CCEA's survey. The hybrid model is a big joke. Not that the distance learning model is any good. The survey is very meaningless, a choice between two very bad options. I thought this was interesting. So you're telling me that CCSD's 8 board members can't get together in person to decide about reopening school due to COVID-19, but they're still thinking of reopening schools where kids will be forced to be in close proximity with one another. And this is the same thing. My brother made an excellent point about CCSD board members. If you guys can't get together for a meeting of 8 people, how do you expect the teachers to get together 2 groups of 18 kids? This is such a hot topic, and me being a mother, I can say that I do not know what to do. It seems like you're going to be stuck between work, how flexible your work is, how flexible the school district is. Is the school district prepared for distance learning? Because it was thrust upon them in March. They were underprepared, and that is nobody's fault. No one saw it coming. But are we prepared to do distance learning? What are you all seeing on social, Jen?
I think a big resounding message has been the school district has largely been chronically underfunded, and I think we're seeing a lot of the issues that are happening, are a result of that. The lack of planning and the lack of resources. The thing that I had read said that the district couldn't fulfill a third of the need for Chromebooks for lower income students until October. So that's obviously a problem too. So, I think, we're all parents that have kids in the district, and I think we're lucky that we can get extra resources for our children. I definitely worry about the lower income kids, and the city does too. We're actively working on workarounds and programs and offerings to help supplement that before and after school programming to help keep kids caught up and keep them in school.
One of the things I thought was interesting, because I do have several teachers in my family, has been their safety as well. How do we expect teachers to be safe when they're shuffling in students back and forth? And as we see, CCSD staff, the majority of them just want the distance learning model. Jace, are you guys seeing anything on social that would show which way people are leaning?
Well, interestingly, I saw the survey that you put up there, but I saw a survey on Channel 8 and it was almost exactly the opposite. So I think there's a lot of discrepancy in what parents actually want out there. The one through point that I've seen on most social media is anxiety. Yeah. Whether you're working and you don't know how you're going to work your schedule if there's stay-at-home learning, or you're worried about the health of your children, or in my case, my wife's a teacher, you're worried about the health of your family members who are teachers. I just think there's a lot of anxiety from people because it's unsettled and they don't know what's going to happen. And as a parent, one of your duties is to make sure your kids are educated for their future, obviously. And so I just think it creates a lot of anxiety for parents.
I know. Jace has older kids. You and I have young kids. My daughter is going to go into kindergarten. She obviously doesn't know how to read yet. So I have concerns about distance learning. How are we going to do that with her, and try to learn all those things? And I'm looking on Pinterest and looking at library books. How do I teach my kid how to read?
Because while you keep a full-time job.
Yep. So it's definitely going to be a real challenge.
And I sit there and I wonder, you hear different things. Pediatricians came out basically saying, you got to get the kids in school, you have social learning, and they've got so many social aspects that will be affected if they are not in school, which is probably true. Again, I'm not a pediatrician, but at the same time, can we delay it 5 months? We don't have those answers, and I really feel for the people who are making these decisions, because there is not going to be a right answer. They're not going to win. Nobody's going to win. It's just going to be a matter of us just taking it one day at a time, one step at a time. Everyone's still learning their way. All right. The city is once again, though, helping businesses adjust to social distancing protocols that are now mandated by governing forces to make sure social distancing is kept in place. So we wanted to give you an update on that. We also have some beautification of downtown taking place. We're going to get to that in a second. First, let's talk about a grant money that's available for some small businesses. Here's a look. So our social media team put that out, and as you can see, there's grant money available this week. There was grant money initially a couple months ago, but now there's a new round. Jen, can you explain, or Jace?
Yeah, you know, we have CARES Act money, and the city decided to try to make some of that money available to small businesses. Obviously, just like everybody at home, if you're a small business, you have a certain budget that you have to stick to, and you know, PPE, masks, and the plastic dividers, senior moment. The plastic dividers on there, partitions aren't cheap, you know, so that's not an expense that these businesses have planned for. And anecdotally, like you said, Melissa, you know, when you go out to these businesses, it's not like they're packed to the gills with people now. You have people at home still worried about the pandemic. So, you know, this is just a way to help these businesses try to, you know, stay open and keep their cash flow where it needs to be to keep their people working.
What's the deadline to apply for this?
So it's until we went through the funds pretty quickly. The first time, the $4 million, it's $2 million this time. It's half as much. So we expect it to go pretty quickly. It opened July 20th, and it will close at the end of the month if the funds haven't been expended by then.
Okay, so if you're a small business out there and you need some help, get on that quickly. All right, let's move to some beautification downtown. Here's a look at some social media of what's going on. The reinstallation of these original neon signs has been getting a lot of attention this week. Project Enchilada is bringing green, open space and stabilization to East Fremont Street from Las Vegas Boulevard to 14th Street. Some of these signs are being relit. Jen, is that the issue?
It is. So Project Enchilada is all about restoring Fremont Street to its heyday of the 40s and 50s, when all those motels down there were amazing places to stay. They all had the very famous neon signs, but you know, through the decades, they've definitely fallen into disarray. A lot of them are closed, and so our team decided to, you know, spend some money and focus on rehabilitating the area. So a lot of the neon signs have been refurbished. We had to go track down some of the neon signs because they weren't even in Las Vegas anymore.
Really?
They had to be brought back to the city and rehabbed, and now they're being put back up and lit. And so it's just going to give the street, you know, a really nice look and feel that hopefully is going to attract more businesses and attract more foot traffic. And if you haven't been down to East Fremont, you should go check it out, because they've rearranged a lot of things down there. They've changed the road a little bit. They put in trees to offer a shade canopy. That's really what Fremont looked like when, you know, it opened, you know, back in the 1910s, 1920s. And so we're really returning to that heyday of Las Vegas, and it's just really looking great.
Yeah, and a lot of people are probably wondering, like, this is trending really well. It did really, really well on the social media for our city team, but I just thought it was some good news. We could all use some good news during this time, and it's starting to look really great on East Fremont, and also the new canopy on Fremont Street Experience. So there's just so much going on.
I think everyone always says too, oh, Vegas just implodes history, and obviously that's not true, especially downtown. The city feels very passionate about keeping it going as much as we can, and I think this project is just a great example of that.
Absolutely. All right, guys, finally, we have to talk about the mountain lion that was on the loose in Summerlin. Everyone was talking about it over the weekend. Here are some pictures. Mountain lion sighting near Alta and Fox Hill, far west side of the Las Vegas Valley. You can see him. I mean, he looks dangerous, doesn't he? I mean, all muscular and stuff. Oh my goodness. That's a she, I guess. Female mountain lion tranquilized, captured along trail near Alta Desert Foothills. It was also near Vasiliadis Elementary School. And the majority of these are just photos.
That's my favorate one, where he's hanging out in the schoolyard.
Just chilling in the schoolyard.
Looking at everything.
And then we have this one. This is after she was tranquilized. Going to be released back into the wilderness later today, and if he's deemed healthy. Do we know if it was a he or she? Some are saying
it was a she.
It was a she.
Yep, that was from animal control, and they were able to release her. She was healthy, so they were en route to do that on Sunday when this all broke. So.
I could not believe there's a mountain lion on the loose. Everyone hide your small dogs. The fact that he's on a trail, she's on a trail that just people normally
walking the sidewalk.
What do? What was animals control? I mean, what do they typically deal with?
Well, they worked with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. So animal control is always encountering crazy things with domesticated pets and wildlife. I was telling you before we started, a few days ago, they just saved some baby quail that had fallen into a grate. They played quail sounds from YouTube and got the chicks to come out.
Wow.
And they assisted Las Vegas Fire and Rescue with saving them out of another grate. So they are always encountering different animals, and they're really creative about, trying to safely capture the animal and get them any, medical care if they need it, or get them back into the wild where they're intended to be.
Jace?
Well, when I heard about it, I was like, oh man, I'm glad it's not a gorilla, because I think this is how Planet of the Apes starts. There's a pandemic,
yeah, feels
then
a little
we wake up
apocalyptic.
and there's a bunch of animals running the place. So, interestingly though,
Hey, we're only halfway through the year, so let's give it time.
And when you look on social, this is happening multiple places because humans are inside more now with the pandemic, and so Mother Nature is like, oh, these animals are pushing back. In Barcelona, they had wild boars walking down the streets. In Wales, they had mountain goats.
Everything out.
Yeah.
So, we got a mountain lion here in Las Vegas.
Well, thankfully she is safe, she is healthy, and she's back in her natural habitat. I did want to mention that there were a lot of people complaining, like, we wish we had known about this earlier. Well, people, it's not necessarily the easiest to track down a mountain lion preying in Summerlin, so let's just keep that in mind.
I heard from our Summerlin neighbors as well that it was all over Nextdoor. So Nextdoor is a great way for neighbors to stay involved. If you go on nextdoor.com, you put in your address, it'll put you into your right neighborhood, and it's just a wealth of information about what's happening in your area.
And Nextdoor is a wealth of information, and sometimes it's an overwealth of information, so just keep that in mind. Put your settings accordingly, because if not, your phone will be dinging all day long.
If you're on Twitter, follow Best of Nextdoor.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Okay. And the one thing I want to mention with this mountain lion, who knew she had a Twitter account? That came up right after. And it says, why is everyone always up in my business? And so I just thought that was funny. People capitalized on that. And then this guy says, this is amazing, already has its own Twitter handle. So, all right, well, we are happy that she is safe and sound. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I appreciate it, Jason, Jen. All right, and when we come back, it is so important to fill out your census, and you are running out of time. I'm going to be sitting down with someone from the U.S. Census Bureau to talk about why it's so important for the future of our state. That's coming up.
Papa!
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have to talk about the 2020 census and its importance. I'm joined by Veronica Meter, who is a media specialist with the U.S. Census Bureau. Veronica, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
So for those who are maybe wondering what the census is, I know we all probably know general understanding, but can you just give us an overview really quickly of what the census is and its importance for everybody?
Essentially, the census is a count of everyone who's living in the country, and it happens once every 10 years. And the funding, which is hundreds of billions of dollars from the federal government, will be distributed based on everyone who's counted in each state. We're talking roadways, free and reduced lunches at school, hospitals, emergency response, infrastructure. These information and the data used and collected by the census every 10 years is used to make decisions by businesses and developers and lawmakers and teachers on programs and services that we all use as a community every year. I just found out that we have just tied as a state our 2010 numbers, which is 61% of households in Nevada have now responded to the U.S. Census Bureau's 2020 census, self-responded. That 61.4% was the final response rate back in 2010, and we still have 3 months to go. So that's really encouraging news.
So we're going to beat it, pretty much, is what you're saying. We're going to beat that 2010 record we held.
It seems like we're poised to beat that, absolutely.
Now, you kind of mentioned it a little while ago when it comes to data collected. I mean, how much money are we talking about? How much has our state received from the 2010 count? Do we have those kinds of numbers?
So it really does depend on how many people are counted, which is why we encourage every Nevadan to be counted, where they were living as of April 1st of this year, 2020. I can tell you, though, as an example, for example, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars per year in a decade. That is a lot of money. Was a
Yeah.
study done by the George Washington University research professor, which he estimated that in fiscal year 2016, $6.2 billion were given to Nevada for programs and services here needed and funded by the government that were derived from 2010 census data. So it's
Wow.
extremely important that we don't forget any Nevadans living here. We want to make sure that money comes home to us.
One of the questions that I know people ask when it comes to filling out your census is how undocumented immigrants play a part. Is it hard to get undocumented immigrants to fill out? Is there fear with it? Is it safe for them to do so? Are they counted?
But per our Constitution, every single person living in our state, all people are counted in the census, regardless of immigration status. So we encourage everyone who lives in Nevada to please answer that and complete that questionnaire. And it's easier than ever to do that. We can do it online at 2020census.gov. We can do it by phone, not only in English, but in Spanish and 11 other languages. Or by mail. If you received a questionnaire, an actual printed questionnaire, and you're holding on to that, we want to encourage you to fill it out. It takes just a few minutes, just a few questions. It's safe, it's simple, secure, and it's so, so important for us. Just mail that in.
Yeah, and I can definitely say, not to brag over here, Veronica, or anything, but I already filled out my census and it was super, super easy.
It was. I did the same thing, and it literally took me a few minutes. It's easier to speak to it when you've actually have done it, and I have done it, and I can tell you from a personal experience that it was very simple. In fact, 4 out of 5 households have chosen to do this and answer this and complete it online. It's that simple. It's the most accessible census in history, essentially, with the addition of that online option now.
Absolutely. So, because you guys have made it so simple, though, are there still some challenges you guys face when trying to get people to fill out the census? And if so, what are those challenges?
One of the interesting things, Melissa, is the fact that in 2010, our children under the age of 5 were undercounted. And, 10 years in the lifetime of a young child is a long time. We're talking someone who could be 2, 3, 4 years old today. And in 10 years, if we don't get that funding, that child will be a teenager. So we're talking about free and reduced school lunches. We're talking about services and programs that they may need, before or after school, and many other programs maybe the parents are using. So it's really important that we don't undercount children in the 2020 census. We want to make sure that you don't forget the little ones, even the newborns. If they were living in your home as of April 1st, be sure to count that child in the 2020 census so we don't have an undercount like we did 10 years ago.
Wow, that's really interesting. Let's talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has played into this in filling out the census. And financially, states are hurting all over the nation. So now more than ever, this is a way for us to possibly secure funding down the road if a pandemic were ever to happen again, XYZ. But what are some of the challenges that COVID-19 has made for you all in collecting data?
The timeline modifications. There's definitely been, we were poised to and prepared, and we actually had started many of our operations back in March, which had to be paused as a result of COVID-19. So it's a very fluid situation, but two very important deadlines that have changed as a result of COVID-19. I want to share that with you. One is the self-response deadline. It is now October 31st of 2020. So if you have not responded yet, you still have 3 months to respond. That's a long time. October 31st for self-respond, whether online, by phone, or by mail. The other difference, though, is a little bit connected to that deadline. In August, beginning in August, our census takers, you may recall how the Census Bureau hired hundreds and hundreds of temporary workers to be able to go door to door during what we call our non-response follow-up operation, or NORFU for short. And basically what happens is if you don't fill out your census, you will have a knock on your door to have someone from the Census Bureau come and help you fill it out. It's so important. That is a huge part of the Census Bureau's operation, every census. And so it's really a good opportunity to, if you have not already done so, to complete it and submit it today or as soon as possible, because come August, those census takers, if you have not responded in one of the three ways that I mentioned, will come in and knock on your door and want to help you basically fill it out.
And how are you guys maintaining the safety of not only your workers, but of household members who maybe get that knock on the door? Because that's got to be tricky right now with social distancing and mask wearing.
Absolutely. So another part of that modification is all census takers for the Census Bureau have undergone virtual training on all protocols for safety and health for themselves and for the public. They have gone through training on social distancing. They will be wearing masks and following all local protocols when it comes to any kind of protective gear, such as masks, when they knock on that door. So that's a really important point as well. But if you want to prevent that knock, or at least lessen the chances that you will get that knock, the best way to try to minimize that chance that you will get that visit from the Census Bureau is to answer and complete the census today.
Absolutely. You guys make it sound so easy. It is easy. 2020census.gov. That's the website that you can check out. There's also a telephone number that you can call if you need help. Different languages available for anybody who needs the help. I'm pretty excited about this, Veronica. The fact that we're at the level that we were at 2010 and we still have 3 months to go. Way to go, Nevada. I'm pretty proud of us.
I'm proud of us as well, and I tell you, and there are other areas and throughout Nevada that are now well above 70% of self-response. So there's a really nifty little tool which is actually kind of cool online on 2020census.gov. It's a self-response map. And you can go in that map and you can check your county, you can check your city, you can check your state, how we're doing, and so it's pretty nifty little resource to show in real time how we're doing, which is how I shared those numbers with you today. In fact, that 61.4% of us here in Nevada have now responded. Actually, for the city of Las Vegas is actually even higher than our state. We're at 63.6%.
Okay, way to go.
Yes, way to go, Las Vegas. So yes, absolutely. I think, the fact that it's so easy, the fact that it's simple, secure, and more important than ever, in today's environment, to be able to ensure that as Nevadans, we have that money coming home for all the programs that we need funded. It takes just a few minutes. A lot of us are home now. A lot of us are working from home now. It just takes a few seconds to do that. And it really, the results of that will last us a decade or more.
So the thing is, we're doing really well, but there's still room for improvement. We're competitive here at the city of Las Vegas. We like to lead the way in a lot of things. So our residents need to get out there and fill out that census. Veronica, thank you so much for joining us today. Very insightful, great information. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and a big thank you to the city of Las Vegas. They have been a wonderful partner of the Census 2020, and so we appreciate everything you have done and all your support. And so, yes, we're all competitive. We all want to do well, but you have been a fabulous partner, and we really appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for your time. Have a great day. Have a great day, everyone.